Welcome to the Mindset by Design podcast with your host, the expert Andy Murphy, where you will learn the tips, tricks, and strategies he teaches his world-class clients to give you the skills to dominate any business.
What's going on, Mindset by Design crew, and welcome to episode 275. Hope you're amazing as always. Of course, and especially in these wild times. I know you listen to this for a reason, and today it's going to motivate you to see the world a different way. And I'm sitting here in Liverpool, and it's nice and rainy. And you know what? It's wild right now because most of my life is about traveling, you know? Constant, perpetual traveling. There's so many people to see and things to experience. It's hard for me to stay in the same place. And do you know what's crazy? I haven't spent more than 6 months in a country in probably about 14 years. Think about that, right? Think about that. And so right now, the world has gone a bit wild, right? With not being able to travel the way I like to. And I wanted to, it was interesting, I was thinking about what episode to put out today. And it reminded me of when I was in New Zealand still. Now, obviously, I've been away for 18 years now, lived all over the world. And what was a massive goal? I remember this. Paint this picture, right? It was probably 14 years ago, I've been away 18, so maybe 13, 14 years ago, you know, and I was just about to leave New Zealand, and remember, I'd just gone through bankruptcy, a nervous breakdown, putting together $100 million resort. I was a top performer in 2 different countries in investment real estate. All of this cool stuff was happening, but also the crazy stuff was happening, and one of the people that got me through it all, remember I was young too, was a gentleman called Joe Rogan. Yeah, Joe Rogan. Now he's ultra famous, right? But 14 years ago, he definitely wasn't. Now, he was famous still in his small circle, and the podcast hadn't even been started yet. Think about that. The biggest podcast in the world is Joe Rogan's. It's also the biggest media outlet in the world is Joe Rogan's. Don't believe me? Name another network. Actually combine all of the media outlets, right? Combine them all the TV channels or everything. Put them into one pool. They're still not getting the downloads or views that Rogan gets. Gets a couple of 100 million downloads every single month, right? Puts everyone's podcast and stuff to shame, right? But the truth is behind it, I set a goal for myself when leaving New Zealand and going to LA. And it was to meet Joe Rogan. That was my mission, right? And I became obsessed with his stand-up comedy, all his interviews. This was going back a long, long time, right? And I was just getting into the world I'm getting into now. Because before that, I was studying NLP and became one of the top performers using neuro-linguistic programming sales. But this was now about rebuilding my life, using all of the knowledge I'd had. Remember, I've seen like 2,000 people. I used to train department CEOs, set all these things up. And I had a goal. And the goal for my new life was to go and meet Rogan, right? So guess what I did? Yeah, within about, I think it was 6 to 12 months, I went and met Rogan. Now, it was cool that he was doing his 20th, I think it was his 20th anniversary of stand-up. And it was at the Comedy Store in LA. And yeah, we went. I've seen Rogan many, many times shouldn't say many times, I've seen him probably about 4 or 5 times in do stand-up. But back then, as I say, what he used to do was something cool. He used to do a meet and greet. Doesn't do them anymore, obviously. And so it was my mission to meet him. So I waited. I remember standing outside, we waited, just chatting to Rogan, and we got a photo taken with Rogan. And since then, he is growing so much, and that means, well, I have too. And it's been amazing to grow as he's growing through the show, because, as I say, that show didn't even exist back then. But what was amazing is that it was so cool to listen to the top scientists in the world, the top alternative thinkers in the world, the top health experts in the world, you get the idea. And so I've looked at all of this and listened to all of these experts for way over a decade or whatever, however long the show's going now. So when I look back on this memory, it was really, really cool because I achieved something massive in my head. I set an objective, I changed countries, I went and met this person. Bucket list took off. Hey, maybe one day I'll get on the show. Maybe one day I'll be hanging out with Rogan. But until then, what I've put together today it was an older episode, but I was going through, again, lots of different stuff. And this is the top 10 ways to live life. What I've pulled out from Mr. Rogan. So I know you're going to enjoy it. I know you're going to love it. And I think we've got a different style now on the podcast, but hey, it's going back and it's cool. You're gonna love it. And I want you to think about it like this as you're going through the show. I don't just want you to go, oh, we're listening to something that's gonna pump me up and motivate me. Yay. Nah, man. What we want to be able to do is to look introspectively and analyze or look at the patterns that you are playing unconsciously, right? Automatically, and how these top 10 things relate to your life and where you could upgrade, where you could rewire, where you could step the heck up, right? And that's what today's episode's about. So I know you're gonna love it. And speaking of loving it, traveling and all of this chaos right now is definitely put me a little bit behind in launching some cool stuff. It's all ready to go. It's just the final little bits. And when you're moving and you don't have a base, sometimes you get a few weeks behind. But it doesn't even matter, right? Because I'm looking after my private clients. I'm looking after everything else. And I've got loads of things on the go. And I want to help you be part of this because we're doing so many cool things over here. Now, remember, what I do is not self-help. It's really not. And it's not personal development. What this is about mental performance. And as I say, I'm a world-leading expert in this stuff, done this for over 18 years now. And what I do is rebuild unconscious minds. That's really what we do. So the way you think, act, and see your business, see money, see a specific goal, being able to perform on stage, close a deal, pick the phone up. All of these things, guess what? These are unconscious patterns, and we need to train that mind muscle to think, feel, and act the way we want it. That's it. I've done this for 10,000 people, some of the top people in the world, and I want to show you how to do this for the simple fact, if you don't know how to run your brain and you don't practice it, you don't know how to run it like a pro. Fact. It's just a fact. I know you probably think you do, but you don't know. It's like watching 100 mixed martial arts fights, right? And then thinking you can fight. You can't, right? But the thing is, everyone has business immersions and all of these things, but people don't understand that everything that's going to create your level of success comes from inside your brain and how it's programmed. Fact. It's just what it is. So what I want to offer you is a couple of different things. You need to hit those show notes up. You need to be in the incubator group in Facebook. That's just what's happening, right? You need to be in there. You need to have gone and got your world-class performer audio. Yeah, these are going to sort your mornings out and retrain your brain to think, feel, and act like you've never done before. It's going to sort you out and make your days amazing, right? The 1% Performer Academy, well, that's still a few weeks away. It's all done. It's just we're putting the finishes touches away. So look out for that. But the other thing is, I think we just need to chat. Whether it's to me or one of my concierge coaches, I've got so many cool things that you should know about to help you, your business, your brain optimize to a whole new level. The truth is, as I say, if you are not conditioning your brain, you don't know how to. And I know you think you do, but you don't. So you need to have a chat with us. So hit those show notes up. I bring on I'm saying that I'm full right now, but there's a waiting list to connect with me, so you could be one of those people. So hit the show notes up, apply, and I'm so pumped to help you get exactly what you want that nobody else has been able to help you, I'm the person. So come and connect with us. And speaking of connecting, hit those show notes up and I will see you at the end of the show. So enjoy this and remember to focus on your own life, your own business, your own performance. You get it. And I'll see you at the end of the show. Enjoy. And whether you know the heck Joe Rogan is or not, it doesn't really matter, man. It really doesn't. I'll tell you my little story about why I love Rogan so much in a few minutes. But really, just so you do know, Rogan is one of the top stand-up comics in the world. He was the host of Fear Factor. He is the commentator on the UFC. He has the #1 podcast in the world. And besides that, he also runs helps one of the owners of a company called Onnit.com, which is one of the top nutrition companies in the US, probably the world. He's doing all right, but besides all of that, he's got an incredible way to see the world. He's constantly in growth mode, constantly in optimization mode. And what I wanted to share with you today is he just turned 50. Right? So what does that mean? It means that he's got a bit of wisdom about the world, especially as he's always performed, meaning he's always won. Even back in the day when he was a kid, he started again martial arts. One of the reasons why I've got a connection. He was, I think, US 4 or 5 times taekwondo, full contact taekwondo champion. So he knew how to win from an early age, but it came from inside of him. And what today's episode is about, it's really, really cool because we're going through basically the key top 10 lessons that Joe Rogan has learned about life. And if you can even have a life even remotely like him, then you're doing all right. So this is where we start modeling, okay? We start copying certain strategies, certain ways of thinking, feeling, so you can perform like these people. And what I wanted to do is to basically pull out this article, and I broke it down into sections, and it's Rogan's top 10 key lessons for life. So you gotta love that, right? You gotta love that. And we're gonna jump into that, and it's a pretty cool, and I'll obviously give my opinions and all the rest of it on the way. So that's what today's episode's about. At the very start of the podcast, I was actually gonna give you a quote, and I forgot. So I'll just do it now. It's a good one, and it takes us into this episode really, really nicely, because you're gonna discover a lot about yourself going through this. And that sounds crazy, but it's true, because the questions and the perspectives that I'm going to bring up it's really going to make you think about what you want and what's going on in your head. But anyway, let's jump into this little quote. Just as a candle cannot burn without fire, man cannot live without a spiritual life. And what does a spiritual life mean? Well, you could talk about the universe, you could talk about God, you could talk about religion, you could talk about all of that stuff. Or you just say it's about going inside and making sure that you're very aware of what's playing. Because most people are not conscious that they have patterns, they can change them, they have movies running through their head, the past is still causing them problems, their brain affects them, the future thinking affects them. Right. So if spirituality is just about going inside, then it's time to go inside then, isn't it? And have a little think. So let's jump into this. It was a bit of a random quote, I get it, but it's all about going inside today. So what I want to cover is these lessons. Now, let me tell you a story first of all. Let's jump into this little story. Why I like Rogan so much is that I've been away from New Zealand. I was going to say UK, Liverpool, where I'm from originally, but I've been away from New Zealand now after living there for 5 or so years, for about, I think, over 10 years now. And even back then, I was a Rogan fan, and he did a stand-up special, and it was amazing, right? I think it was Happy Jihad, right? Crazy name. I get it. But it was absolutely brilliant, and it's all about perspective changes. And even then, I remember saying to my mates at the time, I'm going to go to America, and I'm going to go and meet Rogan. And they're like, yeah, hope you do, whatever. I think within like 3 months of being in the States, I met Rogan, right? And that was a huge moment in my life, because he'd really helped me see a different world. And then the podcast came along, and the podcast has been life-changing, not just for me, but for millions of people now, you know? If he's getting, I think it was 90 million downloads a month, it's got to be a reason behind it. And is it just about Rogan? No, far from it. It's about the guests that he brings on that podcast. But he's very intelligent, and what that means, he's learning from all of these guests at a rapid pace, and he's got a crazy OCD, so he locks onto something and becomes obsessed about it. So what you learn from all of these world-class guests coming on over 10 years of the podcast is that life is fully malleable, and whatever level you're playing at, there's so many levels above it that you can expand to. So over the years, Rogan's changed a lot. And now that he's turning 50, he's been able to really break down some key fundamental steps or perspectives that he sees about life. And yeah, that's what this episode's about. So I'm just going to jump into them lesson by lesson, then we'll have a little chat. Sound good? I thought you might say that. So let's jump in. Lesson 1 is, and I'm sure you can relate to it. To me, I can definitely relate to it. So I've had a lot of people come into my life who didn't turn out to be who I hoped they were. Because of that, I really think that I value honesty, truth, character, and reality. So let's break that down. I'm going to say it one more time. I had a lot of people in my life who didn't turn out to be who I hoped they were. Because of that, I really think I value honesty, truth, character, and reality. So think about that. I don't know about you, but I've had so many people come and go in my life. And when you think back, how many times have you been trying to drag people along? Right? How many times have people talk the talk but never delivered? And I'm going through a little bit right now, right? So how many times do you have to, be hurt? Because the thing is, I'm exactly the same. I value honesty, truth, character, and reality, because most people are full of shit. They are. And it doesn't mean that when they say that thing, they don't intentionally mean not to do it. It just means that they're living in a bit of a fantasy, and they don't have, what Rogan says there, the reality. Right? So when you don't have wisdom because you haven't done something, it's hard to really get a perspective on how long it's going to take, how hard it is, the resources. And that's no one's fault that they let you down. It was simply that it was your decision to let them in. Right? So you have to always take responsibility. You always have to take responsibility. And the thing is, something I teach in the 8-Figure Thinker training system is truly about understanding boundaries, being able to move and navigate through them and the people around you. And it's so powerful, because you can't just let everyone in instantly, because there is levels of trust or circles that they have to go through to be able to get into this inner circle, right? So if you're going through anything like that with a business partner or friends or anything like that, understand, you can only do your best. You stay honest, truthful, have the right character which you know is in alignment with you, and be based in reality, right? If you're like that, then guess what you're going to pull around you? That's it. more people like that. So if you're going through that right now, understand I've been through it at least 20, 30 times, right? So you're going to get through it too. And lesson 2 leads on to this. It really does, because it's about, again, we talk about that reality. It really is about reality, because you need to know what level you're playing at. This is the same thing in the coaching world. It drives me crazy. People are charging massive amounts when they haven't had the experience. They think they're way better than what they are, and they're under-delivering time and time again, and it hurts me. It's so funny that I'll say I do neuro NLP and high-performance coaching, and people go, oh, I work with an NLP coach, or I've done this before, I know NLP, or I'm already working with an executive coach. The thing is, they do not have the same level of knowledge, experience, wisdom, and you got to know where you're at, because I've worked with trauma victims, I've worked with post-traumatic stress, I've worked with abuse and rape and chronic fatigue syndrome and eating disorders and people collapsing. I've worked with people doing, $300 million businesses. There's experience there. So how do you get that experience to know what you can do? Well, you got to go through it, right? So what Rogan says in lesson 2 is about jiu-jitsu was the ultimate revelation. He got owned. He says, describing how he was a ragdoll on the mat. You have an idea in your head of who you are and what you can do. And then someone comes along and exposes it as bullshit. Now you have to do one of 2 things. Run away from it or learn the solution. Does that make sense? So again, relating it back to yourself, are you really swimming in a big pond, or are you swimming in the ocean? Right? What am I talking about? I'm talking about big fish in small pond, right? You can be a big fish in a small pond. You can have a beautiful life, to be honest. And sometimes it might be easier. But I like to go and swim in the ocean and see what happens, the highs, the lows, the ups, the downs. I like to go and play full out, because it teaches me where I'm at and who I am. And that's important with business, within life. If we had everything really easy, I promise you right now, you'd get so bored. Yeah, would the stress be off? Yeah, for a while. And then guess what happens? You're going to find something else to be stressed about, even if it's doing the garden or going the shops, right? Even if you've got ultimate money. So think about these things. Where in your life right now are you not opening up and really exposing yourself to the highest level people, so you can work out where you truly are? Not just go, I'm world class, I charge this, I do this, I've done that. And do you know what? It's really interesting, because it's kind of what's happening with this youngest generation that's coming through. They think that because they write a title or do something on social media or take a photo or do this, it makes them like a professional. My friend was talking about this. He's one of the top photographers in the world. And he was actually saying that what's coming through now is Instagram photographers. Think about this, right? Not classically professionally trained photographers, but Instagram photographers who've just got expensive equipment. So these companies are coming in, and because these Instagrammers are famous, and these high-end companies are hiring them to take photo shoots, and they're really messing all the photo shoots up, because they haven't got the wisdom, the skill. They don't have the experience. They aren't trained the same way. They've just gone, I've got 500,000 people on Instagram because I take snapshots and then I stick a filter on it, and the technology is so damn good that anyone can take a photo these days. Anyone can take a good photo. So I just want you to realize where this is at and play in the deep water and see how you do. Make sense? Hope so. Let's look at lesson 3. I love this quote, and you're gonna laugh. But Don't believe anyone who says they're happy doing nothing all day. People who say they just want to smoke a joint at home aren't happy. They just say they are. Now, whether you're going to smoke a joint at home or not, it's up to you, right? But what he's saying is that there's a mythical day, right? That everyone gives it, oh, if I just get this, and this done, then I'll just be able to relax, retire, hang out all day. Well, guess what? I know a lot of people who are hanging out all day and they are bored, right? They read a book, they'll do some business, they'll do bits and pieces, but really there's not much growth there, and they end up starting a new project or a new idea because they get bored. As human beings, once we've got success, we can't just then stop all those patterns that get us success. I've found when I have too much free time, I end up getting in my own way. I end up beating myself up inside of my head. I want to be constantly moving forwards. I want to be constantly driven. Now, that doesn't mean you're driven in a state of anxiety. It means that you're driven in a state of excitedness. And that's different. And obviously we get triggered and we go back into our old patterns, but then it's a case of, reset and we move forwards. The best way I have found is by taking directed and tangible action steps. What it does is it gets rid of the anxiety. It really does. It gets rid of the anxiety, and it also feels good because you're getting dopamine releases, you're getting adrenaline releases, you're getting serotonin releases, neuroepinephrine releases. You're doing all of these things which allow you to feel good. And when we feel good, we want to do more. So really, it's just about being in alignment. Does that make sense? Lesson 4. The key to growth and getting better at anything, says Rogan, is to recognize when your ideas are wrong and abandon them for the truth, which he acknowledges is easier said than done. People defend faulty ideas because they feel that those ideas are theirs. But they're not. They're just ideas. They're not something you use to measure your score in life. Right? And we've all met those people, right? We've all met those people that are holding on to something that's holding and hurting them, right? But the thing is, they keep believing because they stay in that comfort zone of safety. And that's the same way with the world, countries, universities, even accelerated education that's going on in the world right now. Some people, even with NLP is like the most in-depth technical system it's massive. It goes on forever, right? But because of people's old ideas, it didn't get recognized for a long time because it didn't go through the classical education system, which is, to me, it's way outdated, right? So the key thing in this statement to me is the beautiful word, and I use it all the time: truth. What is the truth, right? Because at the end of the day, this bubble that you put around what's possible is only your bubble, right? If you put that bubble around a billionaire, does he see the world a different way, right? Or if you're into sports and you're holding on to ideas about what's possible. We go to Richard Bannister, right? The 4-minute mile. But as soon as that bubble was expanded, everyone, I think it was 2 or 3 people that year broke the 4-minute mile when no one could before. So what's the truth? Right? Are you holding on to that the 4-minute mile isn't possible, or are you expanding yourself into, I've done it? Do you understand? So what we have to do is give up the ideas that what we have put around or what's happening in our life right now isn't fixed. It's completely malleable, completely changeable, just like neural nets, just like the subatomic particles, okay, in atoms, just like our thoughts, just like the people around us, just like new business ideas, just our imagination. Everything's flexible, right? And it has to be. It just is. Everything in the universe creates flow. You can't be the only thing in the whole of the universe that doesn't create flow. right? So I want you to start thinking about this. As we turn this next chapter in your life in this year, as we're heading towards the last 4 months of the year, 5 months. I just had to count that on my fingers, 5 months. So I want you to make sure that you're constantly expanding, right? Constantly expanding. Okay, that jumps us to lesson 5. I love lesson 5. I do. I really love it because he says you have to have your mind blowing every now and then. It opens your brain up to new information that can change your vision of the landscape of life. People who don't do that box themselves in. Then you're just trying to get better, but you're trying to get better with parameters of your own faulty belief system. Think about that, right? I love that quote, but think about that. That's like going back to when the earth was flat. And it's like going, okay, the earth's flat. That's our belief. We're going to go and measure all the edges. Right? Think about that. It doesn't make sense. And when those peoples of the world had their mind blowing, then guess what happened? Suddenly, we weren't going to fall off the edge of the world. We were going to go around the world for the first time. So everything has its own parameters. And if you're trying to do something in a parameter or a boundary or a bubble that doesn't work, and you're trying to get better in that thing that is causing you chaos and shit and nightmares and horrible stuff and feeling bad inside. Do you like the vocabulary? So think about that. If you're trying to work your ass off inside this box that the box doesn't work, then you're just going to wear yourself out. You have to stop and look and expand and grow. And when you get your head blown by putting yourself around just amazing people who just expand your brain to what's truly possible, makes sense, right? Yeah. And that leads us into the next one. The next one is all about ego. And this is an interesting one. I'll elaborate on ego. So lesson 6. So Rogan says you can monitor your own ego by asking yourself a simple question. Do you truly believe something, or are you clinging to it because you are scared to be wrong? I love that question, right? So I'll read it again. Do you truly believe something, or are you clinging to it because you're scared you're wrong? And I'll add to that, you might fail, you might look silly in front of people, you've told somebody else what you're going to do, you put all the time, effort, and energy into, you spent all this money, right? Same thing, right? Same thing. So people will argue things and know that they're not correct. They're just trying to win the discussion. You have to be able to entertain contrary ideas and figure out which one is right for you. So when you start to do these things, understand that what ego is doing is just making sure that you are safe. So it puts things in this attachment, attaches to ideas, concepts, thoughts, the past, the future. It does this because it's connected to the part of the brain that makes sure that you're going to be safe. And when you start to understand this, then it's just making sure you're safe. Well, isn't that a good thing? Isn't that what a good thing? Yeah. So don't try to get rid of the ego. We don't try and kill it. We just try and detach from it or change our perspective about it. Because ego is an interesting thing that will hold us back. And sometimes when we're in a lot of crap or we need to drive forwards, ego we can use as a fear mechanism to push forwards and create momentum. But a long-lasting version, that's not good. We want to be coming from heart. We want to be coming from intuition. We want to be coming from pre-programmed decisions and drive. That comes from inside. The ego, well, it ends up being very, very empty. Lesson 7, I'm calling love bombs. Yeah, because it's not my words, it's Rogan's words. But for example, I think it's important. And I'll just give you his explanation. But he was trying to order a cup of coffee. This was by his friend Brian Callen was telling the story. And they ordering a cup of coffee, and the guy who was ordering it seemed really, really down and sad. So Rogan didn't say anything and walked away, but put a tip in the jar and just walked away. And Callen looked at what the tip was, and it was like $100. So Calvin was like, why'd you do that? And he gives it, well, some people just need a little boost for the day. I call them love bombs, and I do them all the time. I love that, right? I love bombs. And you don't know how that's going to change someone's life. Now, not everyone can do it with $100. I've actually seen it done with $1,000, $1,000 tip for a very small thing. And I think it's the opposite of fear. Okay, when I've been the poorest in my life, I've generally given the most to people on the streets or homeless people or people begging. And the reason is I can restrict and go into fear, or I can expand and go into kindness and love and understand that everyone needs a bit of help sometimes, right? So rather than retracting with that fear, expand it and expand the feeling that you want to everyone else to feel around you and you want to feel in life. And if that is love and happiness, then go and spread love and happiness. If you want to go and spread anger and pain, then you're listening to the wrong dude and the wrong podcast, right? You really are. So think about that. Love bombs. And it doesn't have to be with money. It can be with energy, time. You can text someone. You can call someone. You can go and see someone, right? But the point is, it's an energy exchange. And you just don't know what that energy that you give out can do to someone's life. That word that you say to them in a different way with a different emotion might trigger a good feeling inside of them. Then the next person they're nice to and they say something nice to, and then that ripple keeps going, right? That's how it works. That's how it works. This isn't about money. This is about energy. Okay? Now let's move to, I was going to go level 8 then. I've just been recording for months, so it's level 8, but not level 8. No, it's not. It is lesson 8 because there's 8 levels in the 8-figure thinker. Right. Anyway, let me talk about this. So Rogan says, I'm motivated by the same thing I was at 21. It's called life. He wants people who think that one day they'll know or have enough to relax. That is a day that never comes. To Rogan, the purpose of life is to enrich your mind by learning and experiencing as much as you can get your hands on, and in managing your emotions so you don't stand in your own way. This process, or the process I should say, of human optimization is never ending. I love that. I love that because this was a big aha moment for me, this quote. He wants people who think they'll one day know or have enough to relax. That day is never going to come. Think about that, right? So I've had it in my head. I'm going to get here, like I spoke about before, yeah? And then I'm going to be able to relax. Well, guess what? Like I said before, you'll probably get bored. I know I would. But also, why don't you just relax now? Right? It's something I have to tell myself. I can get wound up. I can get OCD. But what the point is what Mindset by Design and the 8-figure thinker is all about is making sure that you are in control of your own brain, your own emotions, your own peak states. So we've trained the actual neural nets to be able to recognize when you need to relax, right? But it's not every day. It's not every day. But so think about that. If you've got in your head that I'm going to retire at this point at this time and that's it, then what feeling is that creating to you? Is it driving towards it? Is it creating anxiety? Is it holding you back? What's going on, right? Because and what would happen if you just lit up your imagination and took off the idea of actually completely retiring one day, right? Instead, doing things that you love, doing projects, earning money if that's what you need to do. It's a big difference, right? Big difference. So there's number 8. Let's jump into number 9. And we might actually have an extra one. I'm going through this and I've made my notes and everything. And there seems to be a couple more coming up. But this next one, I love. I love them all. I guess it's about a love day, right? It seems to be. So this is a great quote. Obsession fueled discipline, and discipline manages that obsession. I just absolutely love it. Obsession fueled discipline, and discipline manages that obsession. I think really that is the truth to being an entrepreneur. I really do. I think it's not just the truth to be an entrepreneur. I think it's the truth to life. I think it's the truth to excel or win or get good at any single thing, including doing podcasts, right? Including coaching, including whatever the heck it is. Discipline often goes out the window because people get overtaken by fear. And maybe that's you, maybe it's not. But if the fear comes in, it's the discipline to take action that's going to move you past it. It's that simple. And is it hard? Yeah, it's hard. That's why most people can't do it. But that's the point. That's the point. It's about getting control of your mind, your emotions, and that peak state. And that's what I love to do. So I love that quote. Let's jump on to the next one. Okay, this seems actually, I miscalculated. This is the final lesson from Joe Rogan. Da, 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 da. But it's cool. I love it. So if you take nothing else from Rogan's example, he wants you to remember this. When in doubt, go back to doing what you love. When I found something I was interested in, I didn't have to have to be disciplined because I was obsessed, he says. Obsession fueled discipline, and discipline manages that obsession. Prior to this discovery of martial arts and comedy, Rogan couldn't focus on anything he wasn't simply deeply interested in. And it's still a challenge for him today. So I just filled my cup up with stuff I like, he says with a laugh. Joe's formula for success is simple, says his friend Callan. It's like doing this. I'll just do it every day, no matter what, until I get really good at it. That's the secret. And you know what? I think that's the secret of life. It really is. Because we don't know when this day is over. We don't know when our journey's over here. We really, really don't. And we can sit back in fear. We can hold ourselves back. We can create resistance. We can judge ourselves against other people. We can hold on to past pain. We can refuse to step into brilliance, into the future. We can do all of these things. Or we can just do discipline. Or we can just find out what we love. Remember, the best quote ever. Obsession fueled discipline, and discipline manages that obsession. So every day, if we do something, what happens? That's right, that circuit, that pattern in your brain connects and starts to reconnect and reconnect and reconnect. And what's the old saying? What wires together fires together, right? So when we start to understand that those connections that we're building are either going to happen to us or not happen to us, they're either we're going to enjoy this life or we're not. We're going to find out what we love or we're not. We're going to live in fear or we're not. We're going to live in excitement or we're not. We're going to drive forwards and give it everything we've got with obsession-fueled discipline, and the discipline manages that obsession, or we're not. But the biggest thing is, just be kind on yourself, right? I mean this. I can be the worst at being brutal on myself because my mind and my imagination's pretty damn vivid, right? So I can get locked on things, and I think I've done a podcast about it. It's an early one, but world-class OCD, right? I'm a huge fan. Go and Google that one. It'll come up. So what's the final chapter of this episode? It's my takeaway from it all. There's never going to be the end of the rainbow, right? There's never going to be that pot of gold waiting for you. It's about the journey. It's so cheesy to even say. It really is, but it truly is. It's about what do you have around you that supports you and makes you feel good? What is inside of you that supports you and makes you feel good? And if you can really work that out, then everything else, it seems to come and go and come and go. Like, I look at all the things I could do in my life, and there's a lot. And I still love to coach, and I've stayed away from it for quite a while just because I was doing other stuff. But, I've been pulled back into it again, right? And I've just opened this up again for the first time in a long, long time. And you know what? I'm pumped about it. Why? Because I find it fun and I'm good at it. What else? Discipline. Discipline and persistence is really, truly everything. I've just been watching these entrepreneur programs, these mini documentaries, and it's going through even people who built the rollerblade. And there's so many incredible entrepreneurs, and you see the struggles of all of these people. And it's only persistence and discipline and determination and belief in what they have created from their imagination that can solve a problem. And it's the same thing. Everyone else around them didn't believe them. They put all their life savings into it. And it's just one person, one day, that opens something up that you didn't know existed, that changes that entrepreneur's life. And it's the same with you. It's the same with you. So my takeaways are, don't look for the rainbow. Doesn't matter. Find what you love, be in alignment, be disciplined about it, go and get it, go and make it happen. Put yourself around people, places, things that are going to just tear your reality up because they're so expansive, right? It's like starting martial arts or a sport and then going to hang around with someone who's in the Olympics, right? That's the mind-blowing concept that we want, because then suddenly your reality changes fast. The thing is about change is it happens instantly. Now, the build-up to change can take as long as you want it to. It's the gap in the middle that drives me crazy. Being either side of the gap, hey, that's cool. That's cool. So really now, it's time for you to make a new decision. Time to make a new change, a new choice, and really start to live to your full potential. So Mindset by Design crew, we're at the end of this episode, but I'm going to leave you with two awesome quotes. Okay, this first one's by Carol Burnett. It is, "Only I can change my life. No one can do it for me." I'll read it again. "Only I can change my life. No one can do it for me." And the second quote is by Charles R. Swindoll. "Life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you react to it." So there we go, crew. End of episode 275. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got some golden nuggets of wisdom and you're all motivated. And more importantly than the motivation is that you got some ahas, you got a different way to think, and guess what you did? You're ready to step up. That's all this is about, stepping up and really taking charge of your own life, income, and business, especially in these wild times. There's never been more of an opportunity for you to do what you want. So, next level, you ready? Good. So hit those show notes up. Definitely apply to connect with me or chat one of my concierge coaches. This is mental performance. This is very, very different to what's out there. This is why the top in the world come and use my systems. And I want to share them with you. So let's apply. Second thing is, we'll make sure that you're in the incubator group on Facebook. Lots of training is going to be happening. So make sure you're in there. Post nearly every day in there. So jump in there. What else? Make sure you get in the world-class performer morning audio. Rewire your brain every single day to be your optimum you. And always make sure that you are applying. So go and do those show notes now. There's lots of other links. Find me on all different social media platforms. Reach out and say hello. Or hey, you can even email me. It's time to make this rest of this year your best ever. It's time to step up. There's no more days that can go by with you being where you were. Next level time now. Time to be the top 1% performer. Pumped to speak to you very, very soon. Until then, much love. You have an amazing week. And oh yeah, one more thing. Why don't you smile for me?
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of the Mindset by Design podcast with your host and NLP expert, Andy Murphy. We'll catch you next time.